At 77, Peter Weller just landed the most mysterious role of his career. He's working with Brad Pitt on a secret Netflix project that has Hollywood buzzing. But here's what's really strange. For 15 years, Weller disappeared from acting to become a professor. He earned a PhD and taught art history at major universities. Why would RoboCop suddenly become an academic? The answer involves a breakdown, a cover-up, and a truth about his past that he's kept hidden until now. His return isn't just about movies, it's about redemption. Peter Frederick Weller was born at exactly 4:47 in the morning on June 24, 1947, in the quiet town of Stevens Point, Wisconsin. But his life was never going to be quiet. His father, Frederick Bradford Weller, was not the kind of man who fit one label. He was a lawyer, a federal judge, and a career helicopter pilot in the United States Army. All three at once. That alone made the house run with discipline and structure. But it wasn't cold. His mother, Dorothy Jean Davidson Weller, came from a Catholic family rooted in music, 3 generations of classical piano players on her side. The family blood ran with English, German, French, and Irish lines. But Peter's upbringing was pure post-war America, tense with Cold War shadows, filled with long dinners where the topics weren't cartoons or homework. They were law, justice, war, and the weight of the world. When Peter was just 5 years old, around 1952, everything shifted. The family packed up and moved to West Germany for his father's army posting. Most kids never leave their hometown, but Peter started school on a military base in a country still rebuilding from World War II. He learned German at the age most kids were just learning English grammar. He didn't just memorize vocabulary, he absorbed the culture. He walked through streets where buildings still had scars. He played near places shaped by war. This wasn't just foreign exposure, it was wiring his brain differently. Heidelberg became a second home, its old streets and university air leaving a mark that would show up years later when Peter obsessed over Renaissance art and European philosophy. He could switch between languages, accents, and even mental frameworks, something casting directors noticed later, calling him unusually flexible for American actors. Then, just 3 years later in 1955, the family moved again. This time, it wasn't to another country. It was San Antonio, Texas. But to Peter, it may as well have been another planet. He was 8, fluent in German, and suddenly back in a place of cowboy boots, blazing sun, and southern twangs. It was a cultural collision. At Alamo Heights High School, where he eventually graduated in 1965, he stood out not for being flashy, but for being sharp. The military kids, the suburban kids, they all noticed the quiet boy who carried European polish, but spoke with Texas edge. His experience made him fluid in navigating people and reading rooms. He wasn't trying to fit in. He was trying to understand. His father's dual life was something Peter watched with quiet awe. Most people never meet a federal judge. Fewer still ride helicopters with one. His dad did both. Born in 1922, Frederick Weller flew missions likely during World War II and Korea, then returned home to rule from a bench with a mind like steel. The same man who gave legal opinions also gave his son helicopter rides. Peter said those flights were what gave him a deep love of machines, a detail that later helped him slip inside the body of RoboCop without ever feeling fake. But it wasn't all inspiration. His dad was gone a lot. Military life meant absence, and that absence formed Peter's sense of emotional distance and independence early on. When Frederick died in 1986, Peter was 39 and already famous, but that loss still cracked something open in him. It was the end of the figure who'd shaped every part of his thinking, even when he wasn't in the room. Peter also had an older brother. And though their relationship wasn't hostile, it was intense. The Weller house wasn't one for playful teasing. It was one for winning arguments. Dinner time was like debate club. His brother set the bar, and Peter learned to leap over it. Instead of following his father's path into law or military, he chose something riskier. He chose to perform. But his approach wasn't just about flair. It was shaped by all those dinner table debates and all that Cold War tension. His acting came with clarity, logic, and emotional control, skills sharpened by trying to win verbal battles as the youngest kid in a serious household. By 1961, now in high school, Peter found his outlet. He joined the drama club and started performing Shakespeare with a seriousness rare for his age. He didn't just act. He studied why a character would do what they did. He questioned motives, rewrote scenes in his mind, and approached roles like puzzles. Playing Hamlet wasn't about showing off. It was about stepping inside a psyche. Teachers noticed. He wasn't loud. He was intense. In 1965, right before graduation, he joined the debate team. The civil rights movement was everywhere, and Peter focused his speeches on it. He talked about the Civil Rights Act, about the March on Washington, and about how change was possible through law. He won regional awards not because he was the most passionate speaker, but because he was the clearest. Those speeches taught him how to fill a room with just his voice, how to deliver a line with weight. It was training for the stage, though he didn't know it yet. In 1966, he turned down expectations and took a bold leap. Instead of law school, he chose the University of North Texas and majored in theater. While his classmates were reading about economics, Peter was studying Greek tragedy and playing leads in Death of a Salesman and All the King's Men. He even performed in a local original play, The Guest, which ended up getting regional attention. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing meaning. In summers between 1968 and 1970, he attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, where training was brutal and precise. They drilled voice control, mime, facial expression. Nothing was casual. Peter poured himself into it. His mime work became legendary among classmates, and his physical discipline gave him a stage presence that later let him play machine-like characters with human eyes. After earning his BA in 1970, reality hit hard. He had the training, but not the money. He lived the classic starving artist life in Denton, bartending at night and auditioning during the day. He shared food with friends, slept on floors, missed meals, but he kept landing small roles, and each one added to the foundation. He called this stretch the time that taught him grit, the kind that doesn't blink when the audience is half empty, or when rent's due and you have nothing but coffee and canned beans. Then came the break. In 1972, he made his Broadway debut in Otto Preminger's Full Circle. He played a fiery lawyer delivering courtroom monologues with force, and the critics couldn't stop talking about him. They called him intense, unforgettable. But that intensity came with a label. Hollywood and Broadway began seeing him as a serious actor. Offers shrank. Casting directors whispered that he was too heavy for mainstream roles. Still, his performance in Full Circle was the loudest whisper of a career about to explode. In 1973, he shook the stage with a bold performance in Summer Brave, where one scene had him miming aggressive farm work so suggestive that audiences walked out. Some called it indecent. Others called it art. The controversy sold tickets. They started calling him the man who made Broadway blush, and he didn't stop there. In 1974, he stepped in last minute to perform the strip-tease scene in Picnic. Critics were split. Some praised its emotional vulnerability, others found it too raw. But everyone remembered it. That same year, Producers began whispering that Weller was fearless, maybe even dangerous. By 1975, he was directing his own off-Broadway play about Vietnam veterans. It was unfiltered, direct, and politically charged. Too direct for the sponsors. Funding was pulled, the show collapsed, and Weller was left sleeping on couches in Manhattan. He lost money, but found purpose. He realized theater had limits, and he didn't want them. In 1976, he pushed again. During a regional tour of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, he twisted his character into something never seen before, hinting at a taboo attraction to Maggie. Some critics called it brilliant. Others called it revolting. Several theaters canceled the show, but the buzz followed him. People said he was the actor who crossed lines. He was no longer just talented, he was unpredictable. Directors didn't know what he'd bring to the role, only that it wouldn't be safe. That edge, born from childhood order, European complexity, courtroom structure, and artistic hunger, became his trademark. Peter Weller got his first big film break in 1979 with Butch and Sundance, the early days, where he played a young outlaw in the burning Utah desert. The shoot was brutal. Temperatures often climbed past 100 degrees, and water was hard to come by. During one long outdoor scene, Weller collapsed from heat exhaustion. He was rushed to a nearby hospital and stayed there for 2 days. His body had overheated so badly that he couldn't think clearly, couldn't stand, and couldn't stop shaking. Doctors warned him to stay out of the sun and monitor every ounce of water he drank. That was his first lesson about how punishing Hollywood could be. In 1980, he starred with Ali MacGraw in Just Tell Me What You Want, and their chemistry didn't stay on screen. For 3 years, they were locked in a relationship full of jealousy, passion, and loud public fights. At one dinner in 1981, MacGraw threw a drink in his face in front of a full restaurant. Friends called it destructive. Gossip magazines ran with it. After several explosive arguments in public, the whole thing blew up in 1983. The breakup made headlines, and Weller walked away with a new image: intense, reckless, and unpredictable. Then came Shoot the Moon in 1982. The role pushed him deeper. Playing a man going through a divorce, Weller used method acting and isolated himself between takes. Diane Keaton later said his breakdowns on set were so raw, it made people uncomfortable. He cried after takes. He stopped eating. He lost himself in the pain. When the film came out in January 1982, the critics noticed. Keaton nearly got an Oscar nomination. Weller said the shoot left him emotionally wiped out. The role was fiction, but the emotional damage was real. The next year, in Of Unknown Origin, Weller went to war with a giant rat and with his own fear. He had a deep phobia of rodents. The film used real ones, some weighing nearly 5 pounds. Panic attacks hit him on set. He had to attend therapy just to keep filming. With only a $1.5 million budget, the filmmakers used puppets and trained rats to boost the horror. The movie came out in November 1983, and even though it didn't make much noise in theaters, Weller's panic was so real that critics called his performance terrifying. He won Best Actor at the Paris International Film Festival. The fear that almost ruined the shoot ended up saving it. But 1984 nearly ended him. He auditioned for The Terminator and lost the part to Arnold Schwarzenegger. That rejection cut deep. He was tired, uncertain, and out of money. He even thought about quitting acting. Voiceover work and foreign dubbing crossed his mind as backup plans. His agent couldn't get him any big parts, and Weller called it the lowest point of his life. Slowly, he clawed his way back through smaller roles in Firstborn and A Killing Affair, but the wound left by The Terminator never fully healed. When Buckaroo Banzai came, Weller didn't just read lines, he trained. For 6 weeks, he practiced guitar riffs and sword fights every day. The role was strange. A neurosurgeon rock star saving the world from aliens. But Weller took it seriously. His jazz background and martial arts training helped. He pushed through exhaustion, studying with sword masters and music coaches. The film's press kit praised him for his prep work, saying it brought the weird script to life. But behind the camera, things weren't smooth. He clashed with John Lithgow on set. Lithgow improvised wild sci-fi lines that made scenes spiral off course. Weller, who came in prepared with detailed notes, got frustrated. During one rejected monologue on quantum physics, things got so heated that Weller nearly quit. Director W.D. Richter had to step in to keep peace. Their tension showed on screen in a strange way. The film felt chaotic but electric. Years later, fans remembered the arguments as part of the movie's strange charm. But when Buckaroo Banzai hit theaters, it flopped hard. The $17 million film only made $6.3 million. Its opening weekend brought in just $620,279. Weller had earned $500,000, but the movie's collapse left him broke. He started teaching acting at community colleges to stay afloat. It wasn't what anyone expected from a leading man. The film gained cult status over time, but Weller's bank account didn't get any of that back. While filming, he dated Ellen Barkin. The press loved the story, but it didn't last. Barkin said Weller was too focused on the role to care about much else. Years later, he admitted she was right. The romance didn't work because he couldn't turn off the work. He called it a creative mismatch. Then, in 1985, during the film's promo tour, Weller told stories that blurred fiction and truth. He said that when he was a child in Germany, he'd seen strange lights and experienced what he believed were alien encounters. Fans leaned in. His character was a sci-fi hero, and now the actor sounded like one too. His tales made people curious again. It was weird, but it kept the movie alive in the public imagination. Weller didn't just act in Buckaroo Banzai, he lived it. 2 years later, in 1987, RoboCop arrived, and it nearly destroyed him physically. The suit weighed 80 pounds. Weller spent 10 hours a day inside it. Every day he lost about 3 pounds of water weight from sweating. His skin blistered. He needed IV fluids just to keep going. Eventually, they installed a mini air conditioner inside the suit. Some scenes had to be filmed with only half the suit because the whole thing couldn't fit inside the police car. The suit was made of fiberglass, foam, and metal. It was torture. He also fought with director Paul Verhoeven. Weller had trained in mime to create robotic movement, but Verhoeven didn't like it. He wanted something less graceful, more mechanical. Their arguments got ugly. During a violent scene, Weller almost snapped. He pitched his own ideas for RoboCop's prime directives, but Verhoeven ignored them. The tension nearly pushed Weller to walk away. RoboCop was a hit, but it was also violent, too violent for many. The dismemberment of Murphy caused censorship hearings. Weller testified, telling the world how hard it had been to play a man who lost everything, even his body. He said the nightmares stayed with him. Some countries banned the film, others cut scenes. Even years later, Weller said the role haunted him. In 1990, RoboCop 2 brought him back, but only after messy contract fights. He broke a rib doing stunts. Insurance didn't cover it. The improved suit still left him bruised. Producers had tried to replace him, but fans protested. He did the film, but it made him question everything again. He was tired of being hurt, tired of being typecast. The 1990s hit hard. Casting directors laughed during his auditions. Some called him the guy in the metal suit, and nothing more. He was rejected for superhero roles. Nobody wanted RoboCop in a love story or comedy. He tried smaller films, academic work, and directing, But the big roles stopped coming. He felt boxed in. Then came Naked Lunch in 1991. Weller played Bill Lee, a man descending into madness. The film was surreal. Bugs, typewriters, jellyfish hallucinations. Weller took real hallucinogens to prepare. He ingested jellyfish slime. For weeks, he felt disoriented, paranoid, and couldn't sleep. The film only made $2.6 million off a $16 million budget, but it became a cult classic. The experience left him shaken, but it changed how people saw him. The book it was based on had once been banned as obscene. When the film came out, lawsuits followed. Weller testified in court again, saying the film was about addiction, fear, and honesty. It reopened his own old wounds with heroin. He told the judge that art sometimes had to be ugly. The case was dismissed in 1992. The fight for the film's release became part of its legacy. While shooting Naked Lunch, he had an affair with co-star Judy Davis. It was short, intense, and painful. Years later, both admitted it left scars. Weller said it fed the loneliness in his performance. Davis called it a mistake. Their on-screen chemistry came from real heartbreak. In 2006, Peter Weller stepped into one of the most chilling roles of his career. He played Christopher Henderson in Season 5 of 24, and he didn't just act like a terrorist mastermind. He pushed himself so far that his vocal cords suffered permanent damage. The show aired from January 15th to May 22nd, and his scenes were brutal. Critics noticed how his performance didn't lean on cartoonish villainy. Instead, he brought a cold precision that felt too real. The role was so intense that he needed surgery at the end of that year to repair the damage done to his voice. While 24 got 2 Emmy nominations that season, Weller's name wasn't among them. But anyone who saw it remembers what he did. Almost a decade earlier, in 1997, he directed an episode of Homicide, Life on the Street called Hate Crimes. It aired on March 7th. Weller fought NBC censors to keep in a violent gay bashing scene based on a real incident. He wanted it raw, real, ugly, and he got it through. The network tried to cut it, but he wouldn't let go. That single scene shifted the tone of the episode and added weight to a show already known for tackling hard truths. His direction earned him the Nancy Susan Reynolds Award for Civil Rights Awareness. Then came Dexter. Between 2010 and 2013, Weller appeared as Professor Ramon, a serial killer profiler based on real FBI legends like John Douglas. He didn't fake the research. He went straight to Quantico, sat with criminal profilers, read case files, and absorbed the twisted psychology of men who studied monsters. He learned how those men often lost part of themselves in the process, and he used that darkness. It didn't feel like acting anymore. It felt like something peeled straight from the mind of someone who'd seen too much. In 2010, he directed 2 episodes of Sons of Anarchy, and this time he brought his obsession with Renaissance art with him. It sounds strange until you see how he worked it into the tattoos, the colors, even the club's Sam Crow logo. The actors weren't always thrilled. Some hated the long rehearsals, but the mood he created was heavier, more symbolic, more layered than the show had ever seen. It wasn't just gang violence. It was tragedy, painted in shadow. Back in 2002, Weller starred in Odyssey 5, a sci-fi show that opened with Earth being destroyed. His character, Chuck Taggart, was sent back in time to stop it. What made the role strange and powerful were the monologues. Weller didn't just read lines. He wrote and improvised deep philosophical pieces about fate and time. He pulled from his own PhD studies, weaving Renaissance philosophy into a sci-fi apocalypse. The result felt like poetry buried inside chaos. Long before that, in 2004, Weller had stunned people by enrolling at Syracuse University to earn a master's degree in Roman and Renaissance art. He didn't do it for publicity. He moved to Florence, studied the works in person, and became fluent in Italian. He even gave a lecture in 2005 comparing Michelangelo's David to RoboCop's armor. Not as a joke, but to explain how Renaissance proportions informed the design of the suit. And it made sense. Everyone in the room saw it. Then came the PhD. At UCLA in 2013, he defended a 400-page dissertation on the early influences of Leon Battista Alberti, a Renaissance humanist who helped shape modern thinking about perspective and form. Weller traced Alberti's roots from Padua to Bologna to Rome. He defended the thesis in May 2013. That same day, he appeared on the red carpet for Star Trek Into Darkness, a double life. One foot in academia, the other in Hollywood. He called it a Star Trek white light experience. It was real, and people were stunned that he pulled it off. In Star Trek Enterprise, back in 2005, Weller played John Paxton, a xenophobic leader who ordered the creation of a Vulcan human child. The role wasn't just science fiction, it was a metaphor for real-world eugenics. Weller read about Nazi experiments, isolationist politics, racial purity campaigns. He didn't want the character to be a monster. He wanted him to be familiar. That was the real horror. The episode aired just as the series was ending, and fans were split. But nobody forgot it. Even as a voice actor, Weller couldn't stop bringing philosophy into the work. In 2012, when he voiced Batman in The Dark Knight Returns, he thought like an art historian. He used chiaroscuro, not with lighting, but with voice. Light and dark, soft and hard. He gave Batman depth. Producers wanted something louder, more violent. He gave them something older, tired, human. And that voice made the character feel heavier. Like this was Batman's last stand. In 2015, Weller began teaching art history at George Washington University. His classes were strange and brilliant. He'd screen a scene from RoboCop, then pair it with Da Vinci's drawings. He made his students see the geometry in action movies and the drama in frescoes. He used pop culture to explain Renaissance structure. His students walked in expecting lectures and left thinking about how Batman could teach them about Botticelli. But even as he moved deeper into academics, his private life kept shaping him. On June 24, 2006, his 59th birthday, Weller married Shari Stowe in a quiet Italian church. They'd been together since 2000. A year later, they had a son, Kate Lyndon Weller. In 2005, before the wedding, Weller had hit a wall. Total burnout. He felt lost, but becoming a father gave him new purpose. He began stepping away from heavy roles and chasing what felt meaningful. Knowledge, family, peace. And yet in 2025, at age 77, he took on another brutal role. In Bang, a thriller with Jack Kesey, Weller played a crime boss who still threw punches. He trained hard, cracked a finger during one fight scene, and kept going. The director, Peter Linklater, praised his fire. On set, Weller brought his family with him. Between fight scenes, he'd go back to them. That balance, rage on screen, love off screen, kept him grounded. That same year, he joined The Adventures of Cliff Booth, a Netflix film by David Fincher and Quentin Tarantino. Brad Pitt was back as Booth. Weller played a mysterious mentor, a quiet figure with a dark past. His role was so secret that only a few crew members knew the truth. But his return stunned fans. It had been decades since Weller and Pitt last worked together, and the chemistry felt electric. Weller hinted in interviews that his character would deliver a twist few would predict. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a reinvention. But Weller has always lived on the edge of reinvention. In 2025, during a podcast, he opened up about his chaotic past. His relationships with Cella Ward, Carrie Fisher, and Barbara Streisand weren't tabloid fluff. They were real, painful, inspiring. He called Ward the muse I never knew how to keep. The letter to Streisand that leaked in the 80s? Real, embarrassing, but also part of his story. He admitted those years were messy, but they helped him understand himself. The art, the breakdowns, the beauty. All of it was connected, and through it all, RoboCop still lingers. That 1987 suit weighed 80 pounds. Weller lost 3 pounds in sweat per day. The pain in his back never fully left. He wore only the top half in car scenes. Sometimes he couldn't even sit. But he kept going. And now, at 78, he's still lobbying for a RoboCop revival. Not for fame, but to explore the ideas again.